memory of 9/11 first responders and rescue workers.
On September 11, 2001, the clear blue air was shattered by a thunderous bang. After this attack, the United States has never been the same. Most of us all know the day and all know the event, but it's important to understand the scale of the event. On that morning at 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 hit the North Tower. At that specific moment, there was a lot of confusion and people thought it was an accident. But when a second plane hit the South Tower at 9:03 a.m., everything became evident. It became clear that this was a coordinated attack. We saw the attack on the Pentagon and the crash of Flight 93 in Pennsylvania, and by the end of the day, the collapse of the Twin Towers in New York. The immediate loss of nearly 3,000 lives, 9/11 fundamentally shifted how the city and the country operated. It changed our security policies, our foreign policy, and how we view our neighbors. It created a very specific political environment that we are still dealing with today. That shift in the environment had immediately consequences for the Muslim community. I want to share a personal example that highlights this. My father was an FBI agent during that time. My father was across the street when the towers collapsed and he had to run for his life. He's spoken to me about what the atmosphere was like inside the bureau right after the attacks. The priority had shifted entirely to prevention and intelligence. My father was assigned to interview dozens of people. The profile for these interviews was very specific. They were looking for Muslim individuals, Middle Easterners, and Arabic speakers. He told me that he often felt uncomfortable during this process. He would sit across from families who were clearly just scared and had no connection to any terror groups, but had to ask them intrusive questions just because of their background. He also noticed the mood among his fellow agents. He said a lot of the FBI agents were understandably angry about the attacks, but that anger often got directed at the Middle Eastern population. There was a lot of hostility. It wasn't just about finding bad guys. It became a broader issue of suspicion toward an entire demographic. The experience stuck with him to this day, and evidently many other people. This suspicion wasn't just limited to law enforcement. It was everywhere in the media. If you look at movies and TV shows that came out after the attack, you see a pattern. Before 9/11, movie villains were often generic criminals or spies. After 9/11, the villain was almost always a Muslim man. Think about shows like 24 or Homeland. These shows were massive hits, and they reinforced a specific image, that Muslim neighbors could be sleeper cells. This whole media helped perform a judgment point for a lot of Americans. It trained people to associate with an entire religion with the terrorism and that fateful day. So when we fast forward to today, that psychological conditioning is still there for many voters, and it plays a huge role in how Muslim politicians are treated. This brings us to the current election and newly elected New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani is a democratic socialist, which already makes him a target, and on top of that, he is Muslim. Because of the history I just discussed, his religion and background became a major focal point for his opponents. He faced a lot of Islamophobia. Islamophobia is the dislike of prejudice against Islam or Muslims, especially as a political force. But there were also two specific controversies that came up repeatedly. The first involves a streamer and influencer named Hasan Piker, a friend of Mamdani's. Back in 2019, Piker made a comment on a live stream where he said, "America deserved 9/11. He was in fact critiquing US foreign policy, but of course that is a horrible thing to say. During the campaign, Piker attended a Mamdani rally and was seated in the front row. People noticed and Mamdani was asked about it. Mamdani's response was interesting. He called Piker's comment reprehensible. He didn't defend the statement at all, but he also said, "What my friend said was terrible, but we have to be open-minded to people we disagree with." He took a lot of heat for that because he refused to completely disavow Piker as a person, even though he condemned the comment. The second controversy is about the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. A lot of people forget the towers were attacked just 8 years before 9/11. Mamdani's political opponents circulated a recent picture of Mamdani with Imam Siraj Wahhaj. The Imam was considered an unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 bombing, though he was never charged. Mamdani's opponents tried to use this photo to link Mamdani to the 1993 attacks. Mamdani pushed back on this hard. He pointed out that he was a child in 1993. He had gone in the news to explicitly say he disavows those attacks and does not agree with that violence. But the guilt by association tactic was used heavily against him. The way Muslims were treated post 9/11 was a complete setup for how Mamdani is being treated today. All of these claims are unfounded, and people are scared due to the attacks that occurred. People are inherently scared of Muslims due to the media attention, which led to stereotypes and discrimination. New Yorkers also did not forget about 9/11. Mamdani was only 9 years old when this travesty occurred. Since Mamdani won the election, the rhetoric that he is a terrorist has actually intensified. With the 25th anniversary of 9/11 coming up, there are people on social media and in the press claiming that having a Muslim mayor for the anniversary is dangerous. You will see tweets calling it a second 9/11. However, if you look at Mamdani's actual decisions since winning mayor, they contradict that narrative. The biggest example is the police commissioner, Jessica Tisch. She is the current commissioner and she happens to be Jewish. During the campaign, the assumption was that Mamdani would fire her immediately. Instead, he decided to keep her in place. He stated that he wants stability for the office department and the city. This is a significant move. If he were actually a radical or a terrorist sympathizer, as his opponents claim, he wouldn't have kept the Jewish police commissioner in charge of the city's security. It suggests that his focus is on governing the city, not fueling division. As he said regarding the Piker incident, his goal is to be open-minded, even with people he disagrees with. So, while the campaign was filled with attacks based on the trauma of 9/11, the reality of his administration so far seems much more pragmatic. While these attacks on him based on 9/11 and the attack made in 1993, thus far, his decisions since the election seem to be much more pragmatic than portrayed during his campaign.